de capul meu.
Meteorologists say the storm dumped over 8 millimeters of rain in just 1 hour, nearly half of rain average monthly rainfall. Experts link the event of growing instability of the Mediterranean climate. Pulling the water, sea temperatures, ice sheets, storms are becoming more frequent or more destructive, said Dr. Erin Tufari, a climatologist of the University of Bologna. Video shared online showed massive hailstorm pelting the streets while the residents sheltered the cafes and metro station. In the suburbs, strong winds on the roof from buildings and left thousands without electricity. Major Roberto Giuliani was called to the emergency assessment, warning that the Rome outdated drainage system can no longer handle such tropical-style weather patterns. The storm here reignite debates about the Italy preparedness for the climate extremes. As one resident wrote on social media, Rome is drawing not from the history but from the neglect.
There's a river running there.
We're going to park a van here, though.
Yeah. Wherever you think it's safe.
Rome was thrown into chaos late night when a severe storm hit the Italian capital, bringing torrential rain, violent wind, and widespread flooding that turned historic streets into raging rivers. The violent downpour, which lasted then 2 hours, was described by local meteorologists as one of the most intense weather events in the recent years. The storm began shortly after sunset, with the thunder echoing across the ancient city skyline. Within a minute, water flooded the narrow valleys, Trastevere and Tuscany, clogging several and flooding basements. It looked like apocalypse, said resident Marco Rossi. Lightning lit up the Coliseum. Within seconds, the streets disappeared underwater. Emergency services were inundated with more than 1,400 calls rescuing motorists trapped flooded underpasses and helped residents evacuate flooded homes. Public transportation came to a standstill. Subway lines were suspended and several major routes, including Via Appia, were completely impossible. The city mayor Roberto Gualtieri urged calm, but they admitted the Rome's severe system was never designated. The storm was intensity. The storm described by meteorologists as very unusual for the late October. Lasted less than an hour but caused significant disruption. Roads from Pisa, Venezia and Trastevere were covered with white blackened rain Mr. Winter landscape. It was like the end of the world, said Claudia Rossi, owner of a cafe near Campo de Flori. The hail was different. People were running inside, scrambling, the glass shattered from the impact. Emergency services were quickly overwhelmed. The Rome fire bridge responded to more than 215 emergency calls about flooded basements, fallen bridges and blocked drains. In some areas, hail blocked drains caused flash flood and flooded cars and forced the temporarily closed for metro station. Meteorologist Marco De Santis and Italian Air Force Meteorological Service explained that the storm was caused by explosive collisions between warm, moist air from the Mediterranean Sea and a sudden cold front moving south from the northern Italy. The instability creates ideal conditions for the formation of supercells, he said. Ferry service on Naples and Cagliari were suspended due to rough sea. The Sicily team network was shut down after electrical damage and overheat lines. Meteorologists said the storm was followed by the powerful Mediterranean low-pressure system, parts of the growing pattern of Mediterranean, like a storm that resembled tropical cyclones. Temperatures dropped sharply following this storm and hail the size of walnuts damaged vehicles and citrus orange in the surrounding countryside. Regional Governor Renato Tuscany called the event wake all of the Sicily, emphasizing the urgent need to improve drainage and fluid difference. We can no longer train trees to rare incidents. We said they are becoming by new normal. Video circulated online showing people wading through the waist-deep water in Palermo Historic Center, while rescue used inflatable boats to reach stranded residents near the pizza. Electricity outage and thousands without electricity overnight. The schools were ordered closed and crew cleared debris and restored infrastructure. Climate experts warn that Sicily is one of the dense urban layout and against infrastructure is increasingly exposed to extreme weather linked to global warming. Citrus, grove, vineyards, and olive orange in the eastern Sicily were heavily damaged. Farmer Maria Russo near Catania said, "They hail destroyed it weeks in the work in minutes. Our harvest is gone." Local authority estimated preliminary damage in the million of euros. Social media was flooded with the dramatic videos and the hail bouncing of historic buildings. Streets transformed into the city rivers, and the residents helped each other to navigate the flooded areas. Lightning and the thunder added to the chaotic scene, where the palm trees and old city was bored the of strong wind. Meteorologists warn that the storm-like are becoming more frequent due to climate change. With the increased atmospheric instability across the Mediterranean, Dr. Alessandro Conte, a climate expert, noted, "Warners say a more humid air, the falling storm of unpredictable intensity in the Sicily and across southern Europe. By nightfall, cleanup crews worked to clear debris, restore traffic, and AC structure damage. Residents emergency casually to inspect their constant streets, capturing striker's image and incense Sicily town under the blanket of hail."
Policy still to the door down.
In the Ostia, a coastal suburbs of Rome wake up to 2-meter high crashed onto safe road, damaged several beach establishments that had already have been waked by previous storm. Climatologist Dr. Alessandra Conte and La Sapienza University noted that the storm reflects one alert trend. Italy is experiencing increasingly severe weather conditions due to climate instability, she said. Warmers say the more humid air contributed. The storm that used to occur once a decade but now happen every few months. Exhausted residents took the streets and saw mud-broken glass and broken branches scattered across a once bustling boulevard. Cleanup crews walked tirelessly as the city slowly returned to life, but memories of the storm lingered. "Rome is strong," said a resident near the Pentagon as she washed water from the duster, but the nature reminds who was both. Rome looked at the Venice of the night, journeyed one use on it. Experts warn that such extreme weather conditions are becoming more frequent. Climate change is intensified storm in Italy, said Professor Marco Bellini, a climatologist at the Sicily University. Farmer seas are feeding more energy into the atmosphere, and we are seeing the consequences of this with our eyes. By morning, City's workers are clearing debris and residents were assessing the damage. Glistering the fence trap in a reminder of sudden power of nature and growing instability of European climate. A powerful storm struck the Italian capital of Rome overnight, unleashed torrential rain, violent winds and intense lightning that turned streets into rivers and left thousands without power. Emergency services were inundated with the cold as streets trapped, vehicles were submerged to entire neighborhoods were plunged into darkness. Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most violent weather events to hit central Italy this autumn, when in just a few hours over 18 millimeters of rain fell in equivalent of full month's average rainfall for Rome. The city ancient drainage system already destroyed the years to neglect. The overlimit leading to flooding across several historic districts including Trastevere and Prati. Public transport came to standstill with a section of the metro and network forced to close, but bus routes suspended. At Florence airport, several flights were delayed and diverted as the flights illuminated the sky above the capital. Rome Major Roberto Galerti called the storm as extraordinary, even as tested to resilience of our city. Adding that emergency crews worked throughout the night to clear fallen trees and rapid major roads. Our priority is restoring safety and power to residents as quickly as possible, he said. Residents described it moments of panic on the storm intensified it. It felt like the sky uploaded, said Luca Mercari, a shop owner near Pisa, Venezia. Weather was coming from the streets faster that could push it out. The Italian Civil Protection Department has issued ongoing warnings where the forecast printed more unstoppable weather in the coming days. Experts attribute the surge in severe storm to increasingly erratic Mediterranean climate, followed by the warning sea temperatures. As dawn broke over Rome, the scale of destruction became clear. Flooded basements, damaged monuments, and debris scattered across iconic squares. While the storm has passed, authorities warned the Italian capital facing the long and costly cleanup ahead. The storm also disrupted air and sea traffic. Flights at Balkans airport were delayed and diverted due to strong crosswind, and a ferry service connecting Sicily to Naples and Cagliari were temporarily suspended. Meteorologists from the Italy Air Force where the service explained that the storm was triggered by a low-pressure system moving the North Africa, coated with warm air, humid air from the Mediterranean, apart from the intensified due to rising sea temperatures. Local officials warning that more severe weather was followed. The storms are becoming stronger and more frequent, said Major Roberto Lagala. We must adapt our infrastructure and changing climate. By early morning, the storm has moved eastward, leaving behind the mud-stretched streets, debris and the damaged vehicles. Volunteers joined fighters in clear efforts with the local characters provided to aid families to lost belongings. This event not at Sacramento, how South Italy in a frontline of Europe's shifting climate where sudden storms, flash flood and recovered heat waves are now part of a daily life. Meteorologists from Italy's Severe Protection Agency described the phenomenon as a supercell outbreak. While rare in southern Europe, such events are becoming more frequent. The contrast between extreme heat and a cold front from the Alps creating the perfect storm, explained senior meteorologist Dr. Andrea Lombardi. This level of intense fire used to occur once every 10 years, but how it happened every year. Severe damage occurred in rural area. Farmers in poor river basin reported corn, tomato, and grape crops crushed by hail. Some farms suffered total destruction just before harvest, with the initial estimated putting damage over 100 million euros. Luigi Ferrara, a farmer in Emilia-Romagna, said it looked like a battlefield. Everything we built this season is gone. Images shared on social media showed cars buried in a hail, roads covered in knee-deep ice, and the rescue workers navigating parts of white-like sky slow. In Florence, heavy hail following the hail causing into Arno River to temporarily overflow, flooding low-lying areas.
Ja, und das nennt man jetzt Klimawandel. Hitzeerwärmung, Erderwärmung ist, glaube ich, weit, weit entfernt.
Italy is grappling with a severe flooding after days of relentless rain, particularly affected with the northern regions of the country. Torrential downpour have caused rivers to swell, boost their banks, and inundate towns and villages. This latest episode of flooding has left authorities struggling to cope with the growing crisis, with thousands of people evacuated from their homes. The region of Emilia-Romagna, Lombardy, and Veneto have been among the hardest hit. In Emilia-Romagna, widespread damage to infrastructure have been reported, with the roads submerged, bread washed away, and homes flooded. Several rivers, including the Po the Angelo, have reached critical levels, forcing emergency service to respond rapidly to prevent further damage. The situation has been compounded by landslides in hilly areas, blocked roads, and isolated communities. In Venice, the city is too familiar to high water levels. Flood definitions were put the test. The iconic Moss barriers, designed to protect the city with the rising tides, were activated shelters to match the Venice.
To jest kataklizm.
More intelligent neighbors in the different regions saw extensive flooding with those responsible to prepare the fire. A powerful storm hit Sicily. Italy caused severe weather conditions that resulted in widespread destruction across the island. The storm, characterized by heavy rain, gale force winds, led to widespread flooding, power outage, and extensive damage to infrastructure. Local authorities report that the crises of Catania and Palermo have been hit by hardest heat. In Catania, streets turned into rivers, and water level rose in 3 during years. The historic city center, which usually turned to tourists, is now eerily quiet. Emergency service tried to cope with the field. Video shared on social media showed cars submerged and residents walking throughout the waist-deep water. The meteorological service has recorded widespread up to 100 km/h, which further agriculture to situation. Trees have been uprooted, roofs have been ripped off buildings, and debris is scattered to roadway, making the travel dangerous. The regional government has issued a red alert, urged residents to stay at home and avoid unnecessary travel. In Palermo, the storm led to similar extent to chaos. In local airport was temporarily closed due to flooding of runway, leading to flight cancellation and delays. The Sicilian city of Palermo is trying to recover after the violent storm that caused chaos throughout the region, bringing record rainfall, destructive winds and widespread flooding. In a matter of hours, almost a month of worst of rainfall caused sweat overflow and the streets flood. Footage from the city shows cars floating like toys, buses stuck in the middle of the roads, and firing residents seek refuge in the rooftop. The water rose so quickly that we barely had time to escape, said Giovanni Russo, whose family was rescued to firefighters from their flooded apartment. At least 5 people were killed, dozens were injured, more than 200 residents were evacuated from their homes, and thousands were left without power due to damage in power lines caused by fallen trees and lightning strikes. The historic center of Palermo, known for the architecture and the live market, was ill emptied, businesses closed to tourists at the day hotels. Hospitals are overwhelmed, treating cases to hypothermia, injuries and shock. Emergency shelters have been set up in school and community halls to accommodate families who have lost their homes. The major called in a worst storm in history, and their request urged assistance to the native level. In addition to Palermo rural area, the Sicily were also affected. Vineyard, olive farms and a citrus orange which are vital to the island economy were destroyed, raising concerns about the significant losses and agriculture. Transport link was paralyzed. Palermo airport suspended flights to several hours, and a ferry rail service was suspended due to flooding and landslides. Meteorologists said the storm was intensified by the collisions of warm Mediterranean waters with a cold front, increasingly common phenomenon linking to climate change. Italian Civil Protection Agency warning that Sicily is now one of the regions in Europe most vulnerable to extreme weather conditions.